Hey, we're back, and now we're gonna play Mistborn, House War. War, not wars, like I almost said.
Okay.
And Michael's our team lead.
In Mistborn House Wars, you play as one of the Great Houses, or the Steel Ministry, where you are competing to gain the Lord Ruler's favor. Each turn you will gather resources, as your card says. So, the Steel Ministry would gather ADM, Ska, and Warrior, with ADM being a wild resource, able to be spent on anything, and one personality card, of which there are several types. Due to the Kickstarter success, we got ally cards, which have a special mechanic that adds an effect if you are the house that they are an ally of. Otherwise, there's several other allies with different effects.
4 allies.
The other mechanic that can be done with personality cards, other than the ones you have seen, is adding a resource to your house so that you will produce it every turn on resource collection. The objective of the game is to solve the problems that are erupting in the final empire. You will start out with a number of problems on board equal to the number of players. This game is a 3 to 5 player game, so they start in the position indicated by this corner, give victory points by this number, and the resources needed to solve the problems are across the bottom. Some have effects that say they cannot have personalities played on them. When solved, something happens, or when it enters play, something happens. All but a few problems have an eruption, which is this volcano symbol here, which happens when it reaches here. They move up every turn as the turn indicator shows.
So there can be a lot of problems on board.
You start with, say you have 3 players, you start with 3 on board. Then the start of your turn, you collect your resources, you move the problems forward, then you put another problem on the board.
Okay.
And the eruptions are controlled by the house that erupts them. So if it's my turn and I erupt this, I'm not going to return all my resources to the supply. I'm going to make you.
Or somebody, yeah.
Yes.
This is how many players normally?
3 to 5.
3 to 5.
But the Steel Ministry has a special rule. I showed you them earlier. They can ignore anything, any problem that says Steel Ministry across the top.
That's a little rude.
Yes, they are.
What it's, I'm guessing it's a card you play from your hand.
No, these are the problems that come out.
Okay. So
they can ignore anything that comes out and says Steel Ministry, because they're probably the ones behind it.
it's fair.
Yeah. They also always go first.
Back 5. All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's play through a quick round.
Okay. Hi, how you doing?
Hi, I'm John. I've been talking with Pat via email, but
I'm Alan.
yeah.
And
Yes.
the game ends when Vin either erupts or is solved, or if unrest equals 8, in which case you win via negative victory points. Lowest score wins.
Okay.
Because the Ska Rebellion was successful and they killed off all the nobles who weren't working with them.
Okay.
We're just going to play a short round. So I can show you.
Speak to me of this.
You start with your resources that you have indicated here. So you sit down on whichever of those houses you'd like.
And we're not going to get the full effect since this is 2 players.
Yes.
As you go across the map, you get your opponent's treasure and return to the game. You go through this mist, which every time you go through it, gets more and more dangerous and grows and spreads across the board. So it's kind of
all right.
So these resources are Ska, Warrior, ATM, which can be spent as anything, food, money, and prestige.
It's 4 players.
Any 2 other resources can be spent as any resource, though.
Okay.
So it's
We start with a number of personality cards in hand equal to a number indicated here.
How many minis? Like
Oh, yeah.
point now where I look at
And then
a key part of my game.
Yeah. So one of the
we will put a number of problems equal to the number of players. We'll pretend we're playing a 3-player game.
Okay.
count is very low. So it's
Our first one's the 11th medal, which when solved adds 1 unrest. And when it erupts, allows one house to exchange all of their resources for any resource that their house can produce.
Oh wow.
16 minutes or 7. So you're
Our next one is the Lord Ruler's Disfavor, which when solved adds a problem to the board. And if it erupts, one house gains 7 disgrace. And our last problem is entering over here at 3rd urgency. Is a Steel Ministry card that when it erupts, each house discards half their personality cards in their hand, rounded up at random.
You basically are hitting.
more mist, and then some characters will have abilities to add mist and move it around. And, yeah, it grows throughout the game pretty constantly.
So the turn would start with me collecting my resources
The game ends.
and my card. If you had more cards, you would collect more cards. Both of us chose houses with 1.
Right.
And now's the first opportunity we have to play any cards that say play on your turn.
Okay.
So I have this labor advisor here, which gives me a ska now and at the beginning of every turn. And then problems worsen. Now if they were like this, I could do this, and then because this row is full, jump this forward. But because it's like this, there's no strategy right now.
They're just gonna move.
Right. But you control what order they move in when you move them.
All right.
And what order they erupt in if something is to erupt.
So each player,
And then after I've worsened problems, I add a new problem. And it's Vin.
and if we watch out for also
Okay.
So that means that when Vin erupts or is solved, the game will end.
Okay.
And now, I can choose to pass the turn and take a resource of my choice, or make a deal to try and solve one of these. And looking at my resources and your resources,
It's not possible.
I don't think I can solve any of these. So, I'm going to pass the turn and take another Adium, because that's a wild card.
Come here.
Seven. As few as 7.
Yeah. So how many
Draw.
the four-player game, it's actually only 8 creatures on the board. Each player steals 2.
Well, I guess I'll play her.
Oh, you killed my labor advisor.
Yes, I killed him.
No.
So the 20 is if you want to have 2 leaders for each team or faction. If you want to have 1 leader,
Well, that's kind of pointless. Oh, it's rounded up, so
Yes.
I might as well use it then. Well, is that a rebel?
No, it's a Steel Ministry. Rebel will say across the top Rebel. The same place where it says Steel
All right, well
Ministry.
then,
what we have now is
I guess I'm gonna be done. So, or no, I drew. So now these will all move forward, right?
Yes, and for this, if you wanted to, for some reason, you could push Vin all the way to here,
that's where
because this row is full.
So that
If I do that, we're not gonna get to solve anything and see what happens.
Yeah.
So we'll just do this for now.
And this one will erupt.
This one erupts. Each player has to discard rounded up. Well,
I'm going to elect to ignore it as the Steel Ministry,
yeah, I figured.
and then it would go to the discard pile.
And that goes there. And then I
Well,
guess.
now you add a problem,
Oh yeah.
and it's a major heist.
Yeah.
And personalities cannot be played to help solve this problem or close a deal on this problem.
Oh.
So we can't play cards in hand to help solve that one.
For a second, I didn't see the red dot. I thought I wasn't recording. That would have been bad.
Yeah.
So now I can pass.
Or choose to solve one if you like, because remember, any 2 resources in any combination will spend as any other resource.
That drops the miniature count down to either 10.
So say I could spend these 2 as a prestige or an ATM.
Oh wow, I guess I can solve one. I don't even need to change anything. I can solve the major heist.
Unless I have something that affects the cost in hand, which I may not.
I'm gonna try.
So when you choose which one you want to solve, you put your Steel Inquisitor, the active player marker, on the one that you were doing, and then negotiations would open. But since you have it all yourself,
I don't have to negotiate.
yes. However, that brings us to the final call, which gives me a few seconds to say, wait a second. It's kind of the Munchkin rule,
Okay.
where you just, I'm going to add 2 to the cost of that. So now you have to have my help.
Ah, okay.
But I don't have anything to do, so you just get to collect your 13 victory points.
Sweet. I win.
And this is moved to the discard. And if we were playing a full game instead of demoing for this, our victory points would be hidden.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Yeah, I just cover them up with one of the extra houses. But
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good, I guess.
yeah. Well, also the rules, the turn order is on the back of the houses, so
Oh, okay, yeah.
it's a nice thing to have convenient anyways.
And then,
Yes,
or do I replace it?
you do not.
Okay.
So then turn order passes to me.
So do I do any, like, take 1 resource to draw? Or?
That's if you choose not to solve a problem.
Okay.
Show publishers that we can take a story and a theme.
Now I will collect my resources.
Attention Gen Con attendees, come learn and play over 50 different games for free. No ticket or fee required at the Rio Grande Room, number 233 on the 2nd floor, till midnight tonight. We'll be happy to teach you some of our newest games like Race for the Galaxy, Jump Drive, and Orient Express. We hope to see you soon.
And then I will make problems worse. I'm not going to jump Vin up because I think that's silly. And then I will add a problem. It's going in right at 3, so we're front loading all these problems. But this one, when solved, adds 1 problem to the board, and if it erupts, it ruins a ska, which means it would no longer be produced.
Oh.
Yes. Destroying a resource
wow.
puts it over here and removes it from the supply, but ruining it stops production, but does not destroy any of the resources.
And you do that to the house.
Yeah, whoever erupts that would get to choose.
Nice.
So, like, next turn, if I don't solve this right now, you could erupt this and then both of these, and then you could ruin my ska.
Nice. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. No. So, yes.
I think I'm going to have to attempt to solve the Lord Ruler's disfavor.
There was new themes applied.
Okay.
Would be, obviously.
Now, I have 1 warrior,
Something to really be looking at.
2 ska,
Trying to match the mechanics, potentially
And
adding or changing some mechanics.
4 wilds. So I'm going to need your help with either a food or a prestige.
Ah.
Now I have 11 points here. Would you give me a food for 2 victory points?
I have a very open day tomorrow, or, I can certainly
Sure. But obviously it's much more diplomatic with more people at the table.
Yes. So I'll gain 9 and you will gain 2.
I mean, I was going to say 3, but since I'm the only other player, that's like, it's cheesy.
Well, I have a card in hand that could have made it free. Like without needing your help, but it was easier to
barter.
Yes. Save the card for later. And I've now solved that problem, so I pass the active player marker to you.
Oh yeah. The board itself is sized so that if this had space, so it could actually be slightly smaller. That's about the size. And then the other would be, this is backside.
Wanting to play?
Sure.
I don't know how long it's going to take. We should be done in maybe 10
Wow. Okay, so wait, where are we at?
And if you want
Okay, you have
Correct. So problems worsen.
Yes.
Ah.
Now, remember, I said that if you wanted to, you could erupt that. You still can by moving Vin first and then moving this one.
Okay. But that one's going to erupt no matter what.
Yes, because all of them have to move.
At 11, so.
You just can change the order if you want to force something through.
Okay. Well, we'll do that. We'll erupt that guy.
Yeah, so.
And you'll no longer...
Produce ska. You have
Yeah.
ruined my ska production.
And then new problem 2.
And this one is, one house returns all of their resources to the supply. The active player replaces them with an equal number of resources of any type that they can produce, up to the maximum available resources in the supply. So if you don't like your resource spread to say to solve one of these problems, maybe this one, you have 6, you could replace all of yours with exactly what you need to solve this one, with this one's eruption. Or you could replace all of mine with whatever of my resources.
With whatever I want to give you.
Yes.
I think it's better if it was like. Yeah, we don't have. This one has special. So far.
Well, gosh, I don't know. I'll replace all yours with just warriors. But I'm going to solve Vin.
You're going to solve Vin?
I think so. Or wait, did I do that? I just did that wrong. Because I wasn't paying attention to what I'm doing. Or maybe not. We'll see.
Well, let's see. You going to reduce it by a prestige and the money?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, so you
Yeah, I'm not going to have enough.
you can pay the food, the ska, and the warrior, and then you have enough to cover 1 adium.
Yeah.
I can cover the other 2 adium, but I want 9 of the points.
Actually,
I can do that.
Okay.
'Cause I believe that puts me at like 20 something.
Well, that puts me at 18. And it puts you at
21?
21. So you would win that game, and we would have just ended the game with Vin being solved.
So this could be a really long game if Vin's at the bottom.
You shuffle Vin into a quarter of the deck, and then you choose which quarter you're putting that quarter in.
So obviously if you're playing 3 players, you want a long game, you put that quarter at the bottom.
Right.
Okay, that works. I like that mechanic.
The short game is in the second quarter, the normal game is the third, and a long game is the fourth quarter. We never put Vin into the first quarter except for demo purposes, where people can build up and make good deals.
Right. I'm sure this game changes a lot with more players. I mean,
Yes, it also changes a lot with how your players want to interact.
yes, I'm sure of that too. So I'm sure that a 3-player game is very different from a 6-player game. It's a lot of fun. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
And then I have a hobby strategy game called Multi-Trade.